Okay, when I got that right, it's finally working now. And greetings to everybody who came to the Reggae University today. I see we have a huge crowd. I'm happy that so many people are interested in the topic of Rastafari. Today we're gonna talk on Rastafari, unity and diversity of a global philosophy. And Professor Werner Zips, who's sitting over there, he was head of Department of Social and Cultural Anthropology at the University of Vienna, and his main focus is on Africa and the Caribbean. He has published several books. One of them is titled Rastafari, a Universal Philosophy in the Third Millennium. He has also produced several documentaries on Ghana, Jamaica, and Rastafari. One of them is titled Rastafari, Death to Black and White Downpressors. He's going to show the movie soon, and in between the movie, he's explaining what you will see. And we also, and I don't want to forget, he's also a writer of Riddim Magazine, and he had features in Riddim on Nyabingi, Bobo Shanti, Maroons, etc. And now I realize I didn't even introduce myself to the people who didn't come yesterday. My name is Ellen from Riddim Magazine. Next to me is Pete Lilly, also from Riddim Magazine. And on the left side is David Katz, an important English writer who also wrote a book, a wonderful book on Lee Perry, and a wonderful book with interviews called Solid Foundation. And I'm also going to introduce the other people. One is Sydney Salmon, who's sitting over there in the brown beige shirt. And the Jamaican-born singer and guitarist is playing music professionally since the early 80s, when he published his debut album, New Order, with the Soul Jazz Band. One of his biggest hits is Shashamane on My Mind, which was released in 2000. And all the proceeds from the single went to the Shashamane Development Building Project. As a member of the 12 tribes of Israel, he and his family migrated to Shashamane a few years ago. Shashamane is a piece of land in Ethiopia that was granted to the Rastafarians by His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie. And next to David, we have the reggae legend Bob Andy, one of reggae's last great soldiers, as an article in the Jamaican Observer put it. In 2006, he received the nation's 5th highest honor, the Jamaican Order of Distinction, for his sterling contribution to reggae music. In the early 60s, he initiated the classic reggae group, the Paragons. He scored big hits with Marcia Griffiths as well as solo artists, and is one of the best songwriters in reggae music, as can be heard on his milestone album, Songbook, on Studio One. And he's a dedicated Rastafarian who always stayed true to his message. And it is really a very great honor to us that he takes time out to join us for this session. And as you see, I'm not done yet. On the left side to me of the table is Leila Worku, representative of the Ethiopian Youth Organization and part of the government of the Ethiopian region Oromia, or did I pronounce it right? As well as a representative of the Millennium Committee. And since Shashamane is also located in Oromia, in the Oromia region, maybe she can give us also some insights on the Shashamane community. And first of all, you know, before Werner is starting with his film, you know, we would like to talk to Mr. Bob Andy. You know, maybe we start, or I start with a rather general question, Mr. Andy, which is kind of broad, you know. What does Rastafari mean to you?
Greetings and welcome. For I, Rastafari is a spiritual concept. I like to think that I live in the spirit world and interact in the social world. I speak for no other Rastafarian when I speak, and I don't speak as an authority. I speak from my own philosophical perspective and my relationship with Rastafari. My relationship goes back to the understanding I have to the evolution of Rastafari in the village of Pinnacle in Jamaica, referring to those of us who are familiar with the humble beginnings of Rastafari, Leonard Howell. And what I found most fascinating is the fact that we were given the Bible. And somehow those early Rastafarians who conceptualized the movement, the genesis of the movement, my understanding is based on the fact that they read the Bible and they saw the preface of the Bible, which was really bigging up the king of the time and not the God of the Bible, but James. The translation was saying, and these brethren thought to themselves, so if those people who colonized us and us are brothers and sisters, how could they treat us the way they treat us? So then obviously we are not brothers and sisters. So the most fascinating thing to me is that those brethren from the get-go rejected the colonial teachings from the very God. They rejected the God of colonizers. They rejected the royalty, the monarchy of the colonizers. And say, well, we have to find our own God, our own philosophy, and our own royal representatives. And since all nations in earth seem to have come from a monarchical line, the British have a line, the French, the Spanish, the Japanese, they all have kingdoms. And so we figured that we were from a kingdom too. And further research have shown that probably the oldest kingdom in humanity, Rastafari is connected to. And so with this understanding, with my Christian exposure, because Jamaica will tell you this is a Christian country. So most of us had our beginnings in the Christian upbringing. Using my Christian experience, which wasn't a lot in the early days, because I just knew that I went to church and that I sung the songs about Jesus Christ or his Father, God Almighty, without any research. I was just accepting these teachings from people as far away as Rome, England, Canada. And so I had to de-educate myself and re-educate in order to re-educate myself. And so I started my tradition with another brethren who Sydney knows very well. He's living in Shashamane at the moment, Brother Flipping. We started treading as two Rastafari soldiers with the Bible wherever we went. We spent a lot of time at the rivers and on the beaches, just reading, smoking, and discussing the possibilities of this new philosophy. So I read as much as I could about His Majesty, as much as I could about Ethiopia, Africa. And my movement was very dynamic in that I was influenced by the Black Power movement in America at the time. Eldridge Cleaver, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. Just about the time when Jamaica got independence, we were inundated with a lot of literature from the Black Power movement in America. There's a Black Power leader from Trinidad, Stokely Carmichael. And so my political exposure came via the Black Power movement of America. And my spiritual, philosophical aspect evolved out of my search for the principles of Rastafari. And one such as I does not there's a saying in be positive. My understanding of you cannot just be positive, because positive never works without negative. So when someone says to me, be positive, I say, with my negative, you need one side to understand the other. And so it seemed to me that life is trial and error. So as I embarked on my religious journey, my spiritual journey, some understanding I garnered from books and from people, some from original thoughts. And then I reflected on the Christian lifestyle. And it seemed to me that a lot of people who said they were Christians really spoke about Christianity. But it occurred to me that speaking about Christianity and the preaching and teaching of Christianity is one aspect of Christianity. But then it is a life you have to live. And so I started living a Rastafarian lifestyle. A lot of it concerning food, hair, beliefs came out of the old Judeo-Christian Bible, the Old Testament, as the Jews refer to as the Torah. And so I locked my hair as a singer at Studio one of the first singers to have gone locks. And then everyone started going locks. So I cut my locks. Because initially, I just locked because the hair could grow. When I decided that I would lock my hair again, I was locking my hair from a perspective of a covenant. I knew why I wanted to grow my locks this time. And I knew what I had to do. And I also knew that putting on the locks was going to be extremely burdensome. Because whilst Rastafari has grown and have appealed to a large portion of the entire globe, we still have problems in Jamaica. There's classism and there's religious racism. And reflecting on a song that is called You Don't Have to Be Dread to Be Rasta, which is true. But being a dreadlock Rasta and a bald head Rasta is two completely different experiences. So whilst you don't have to be dread to be Rasta, as a bald head Rasta, you can go through the system with Rasta in your heart. And no one even has to know that you're a Rastafarian. But when you wear your locks in those days, because locks today is fashion. When we put the locks on, we knew we were putting on a burden for 7 years. And you could trim your hair after 7 years because then you would have paid your covenant, dues. Some of us decided that we love the locks, and so if it is going to be a burden, it's going to be a burden for life. And before having an understanding of Rastafari, I was aware of this deep love for music as a child. And it occurred to me at a very young age that I could write my own songs. And so I became a member of a group. Well, Don Evans and myself started singing as a duo. At that time in Jamaica, the duos were the Blues Busters, Higgs and Wilson, the Charmers, Keith and Enid. And so my brethren decided, these were Higgs and Wilson, my brethren decided that that was a very rough field. All those people could sing so well. So we decided we would increase the numbers, and we formed a group called the Paragons. I left the Paragons in 1966, and that is when my Rastafarian walk really began. Because then I could write my songs about my philosophy, my way of life, and I could try to live the life, which to me really is perfection. My goal is seeking after perfection. You never quite get it, but you're always working at it. And whatever you do, like for me in music, I play tennis. I'm a lover of sports. I love craft. I love art, performing art, all aspects of the art. And I realized that in all of these various fields, the practitioners somewhere along the line have perfect moments. A few times as an artist, I've had perfect moments in the studios. I'd have perfect moment on stage. I've had perfect moment on the tennis court when sometimes I felt like I was Bjorn Borg. And so, within Rastafari understanding, overstanding, I pursued this perfect order. And it has somehow been reflected in my music, in my writings, in my speaking, in my living. So for I, Rastafari is a way of life, a spiritual way of life. Through the Spirit, and my belief is that we're housed in this body only for this experience. All of this evolved through my Rastafarian search and thinking. And as I said earlier on, I speak for no other Rastafarian. I speak as life unfolds in my daily movements. It has been a source of inspiration, strength, intense struggle. After a while, as a human being, I stopped living for the struggle because I found out from early, which I stated in one of my songs, I needed nothing to be a man because I was born a man. And so my levity wasn't based on anyone's acceptance or expectations of I. From thence till now and for eternity. At the same time, I don't go around trying to offend people, but I don't go around trying for people to accept. I don't preach to people. I conduct a personal revolution every day of life. I'm always doing the best I can, wherever I can, to whomever I can, because I can. And so my very informal approach to life and Rastafari is what has brought me here, to share my experiences with you. And if one person understands what I've just said, and it means something to you, then my work is continuing. And I'm satisfied with that. Thank you.
Thank you for those eloquent words. And there's just a couple of questions that I'd like to put to you before we open it up for questions from the audience and move on to the other speakers. So you were speaking before about the origins of the movement and how Leonard Howell and the early pioneers, that Rastafari was evolving as a reaction to injustice.
Yes.
I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about how did this philosophy come into your own work?
As a very young, before I was 10 years old, I took my life into my own hands. I never once saw my dad and my mother in the same vicinity. So I knew I had a father, and I lived with my mother. But there was no interaction between my father and my mother, or myself included, as a family. And with credits to the Christian exposure, I was aware always from my sensibility. From I became aware of my sensibilities, I became aware of another dimension from which I speak. I did not know where the words come from. I did not know how they were formed, but I knew that I could speak. And so this convinced me or revealed to me that there was another dimension. So from wherever my words cometh, that's the life I pursued. So I was always very spiritual, as some people like to put it. And so, whilst the principles of Christ I find to be some of the most lofty, I did not accept the format as it was being preached or taught to me. And so that's why I went on my personal research. And my search took me, when I learned about Salmon and Makeda and the kings before and those after, that just brought evidence. Because we live in a world where science is so pervasive and it's based everything on evidence. And so, from the early beginnings, the Rastafarians who were adults to me, I used to hear them say, I want a God that I can see and talk to. Because if paradise, heaven, meant that you had to die to see God, then suicide would be in order. Because if I wanted to see my God so badly because it's paradise, I could easily kill myself and go see God. So that didn't sit right with me, dying to enjoy paradise and to be in the company of God. And so, observing the head of a monarchy who was in this life, who looked more like I look, speaks a philosophy that I related to. Rastafari became easy. Someone I saw in the flesh in Kingston when he visited Jamaica. And the Rastafari concept of God, way of life, spirituality, made more sense to me than anything else. And so I just, not consciously incorporated, just you're developing, you're growing, and this is a result.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the audience for Mr. Bob Andy?
Yes? I don't hear.
Hello.
Hello.
If you are ready, ready.
If?
You are ready for the time. Time are coming. I mean, the time is coming.
The time is now.
Yeah, that's why.
There is no other time but now.
No, just right here.
Yes. So what are you asking?
Yes. Can you tell me, please, when the people will understand that the Almighty Jah really live? Because up to now, we are still fighting with the... No, listen.
I'm listening.
We are fighting and try to put them together. Even we are here. That's why we are here all. But can you tell me now, where are the Rastas? No one. After you and me. Please.
Unity. One of the burdens that I live with, it's disheartening. I live in Jamaica. I've lived other places, but I spend most of my time in Jamaica. And it hurts, and it renders you powerless and helpless when life seems quite simplistic to I. The fact that it is so I'm not worried, but it troubles me to the extent that in my lifetime, I will never see my country unified and live as a people. And it hurts, because I think there is nothing else to life but living and loving each other. Living for each other. Because if humanity does not do that, then God is irrelevant. And, you know, one could go on forever, but there are other people on the panel.
Yeah, I think unfortunately we have to move on, but I want to tell you all that Bob Andy is playing on the main stage tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's something not to be missed, so make sure you be there.
Which is what I'm really here for, to perform tomorrow for the people who attend Rototom. However, as tired as I am, I was quite happy to participate in this Rasta University.
Give thanks, Bob Andy.
Bless. I forgot to say one thing. How could I, when it's been made such an impact on me? Up to 4 years ago, I hadn't been to Africa. I always thought, I've never been to Italy before, and music brought me to Italy. So I always thought music would take me to Africa. When music didn't take me to Africa, but I realized that the Africa Unite concert, what year was it, Sydney? 2005 in Ethiopia. And so I made my pilgrimage at that time. And I went to Shashamane, which is where I met Sydney for the first time. Sung with this band in Ethiopia. Met Leila, who looked after me. And I'm looking forward now to go back to Ethiopia to do the work that we have promised to do. As His Majesty said, Africa awaits her creators. And when I was in Kenya, I was on the beach in Mombasa Bay with some young Kenyans, and we had a chat, and they said to me, Rastaman, if you come home, we can learn the ways of the West from you. We won't have to travel to the West. And so that has made a big impact on me. And I see myself living the rest of my life in the continent of Africa. That's how committed I am to the process. So in answer to your question about when will the people come together, it's process. We all don't learn at the same time, at the same speed. And I don't have that final answer. I still have a lot of questions myself. So, one love and God bless. Well, my brother, you have generations and you have generations and evolution. Just do what you can within your time. Just do what you can within your time. All right, give thanks and praise. Yes, blessed.
Give thanks again, Bob Andy. Enough love. Okay, I guess it's time to move on to the movie Rastafari. What's it called again? Descent to Black and White Oppressors and to the talk of Werner Zips. It's your turn.
Greetings, greetings, blessed to everyone. I might just stand for a few minutes because when we show the movie, I will sit down again and just interrupt from time to time and explain a couple of things. Well, actually, I think I have a little answer to the question too. Who could ever bring such a group of people together in a room, transcending generations? I mean, Bob Andy talks about 66. Who was alive in 66? Could anyone put his hand up who was alive in 66? Well, I'm afraid I was, but I was just 8 years old. Now, he will be performing tomorrow for people of an age of maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, to everyone. And I mean, from every corner and every color and every pigmentation of the skin, it's Rasta. It's not the devil who brought the people here. It's not the Pope that brought these people here. It's Rasta who brings people together. And that's actually the main message of my speech, and I think the film that I would like to show you. Rasta, to me, is an experience that transcends those isms and schisms that Bob Marley talked about. The ism, like communism, like capitalism, like you name it, ism. There's nothing like Rastafarianism, even though some people sometimes talk about it with that word, but most Rastas, I think, would oppose the use of Rastafarianism, telling you up front, no, don't come with that ism. That's not what Rasta stands for. Because an ism is there to put one set of people against the next set of people, to create war and strife. And that's what creates schisms, people being against each other. Now, being an old boy in this, you know, having been to many reggae concerts and so on, the most emotionally striking experience is when you stand at a reggae concert and there's an elder head who don't looks like an elder head, he looks like a young boy, but that's another story. And you have people from all parts of the world, from all ages, standing up and coming together with one voice. And I think if Bob Andy tomorrow at about this time will pose the same question that the brother just asked a while ago, we will hear the answer. If he will ask, who is here for Jah? You will definitely hear a few voices replying, yes, I, Rastafari. So I think with these words I would like to start this film. I think we are running already a bit late. I was told to have times and times and times. I think you should just tell me when to stop. Rasta is not a thing that you can stop anyway. So if this movie is stopped in between after 30 minutes or 20 minutes or 15 minutes, it's still a story going on, and you might then have to ask, where could I get the movie? You can get it over there with my Empress, or maybe at a television broadcasting or things like that. And if you stick around, Bob and also Brother Salmon, please stop the movie when you ever have to say anything. I think it's just something like a dialogue, a virtual dialogue. So I will do the same. I stop it when I feel that I should perhaps explain a little bit what you're seeing. You can do the same, just tell me. Okay, let's go. Death to Black and White Downpressors.
Rastafari again.
Yeah. Rastafari.
Love we will always believe in. Though you may think my faith is in vain, till Shiloh we chant Rastafari's name.
Everybody have to sing the same song, you know. Check everyone what they hear right now. And the whole hour if you shout Rasta. Oh, that sound powerful.
Jump! Rastafari.
Jump!
Rastaman.
Rastafari!
Give thanks, Rastafari.
Just Rasta.
Rastafari. Rastafari, you know.
Rastafari again.
Yeah. Rastafari.
Deliver us.
My Lord.
All I know Rasta. Rasta is a religion, you know, like you have a Catholic and everyone. Rasta liberty. Everything starts within Trenchtown. All the liberty where you see, natural liberty, start right here in Trenchtown.
Then I walk up the first street.
I will do the first break here at this point. When Bob Andy spoke about his way into Rasta and his experience of Rasta, he said he's only talking for himself. He's not talking for any other Rasta. So the idea to this film and also to my presentation is to look into this question of unity and diversity. As for example, somebody like Muta Baruka would say, if you talk to this Rasta woman and ask her, what is Rasta? How do you experience Rasta? she will give you a story. If you come to Bob Andy and ask him, so what is Rasta for you? I want to know and learn about Rasta. You will hear another story. If you come to the brother just sitting on his right-hand side and ask him, what is Rasta? He will give you another story. You come to the brother in the first row, I don't know, you're from Italy? Yeah? From Vienna? He's from Vienna, from my country, and you ask him, what is Rasta to you? He will tell you his story. If you come to the lady in the first row, ask her the same story. At the same time, you have a certain unity. And the unity is in the love of Rasta. It's in the love of Rasta, and as Bob Andy said, it's also in the critique of Rasta. And it's the critique of downpression, of suppression. And it's the international call for equal rights and justice. So you have unity there, but at the same time you have a lot of different mentions, different philosophies, different walks of life, different liberties. So this part tells you about the Trenchtown liberty. It tells you about the foundation of Rasta within Kingston. If you ask Bob Andy, he would possibly tell you, you even at that time had a commune like Pinnacle, which was not in Kingston. Or you had other places in the countryside where people would experience Rasta. But then again, one major part actually came out of Trenchtown, particularly because of the connection between Rastafari and music. And the few screens that we are seeing right now, that's a particularly important historical spot, the Trenchtown Reading Center. Those of you who were here yesterday might have heard a little bit about it. That's the original rehearsal room for the Wailers. And one can say Trenchtown, that place you will be seeing now, at that point of the movie, was a place that became very, very important on a universal stage. And that's very crucial, very important, because Trenchtown is the ultimate ghetto, the ultimate periphery. You wouldn't expect anything universal coming out of Trenchtown, as you can still see it even taken a few years ago. But from this place originated a philosophy that brought you people here. If you go to Tokyo and you go to a reggae concert, you see people chanting Jah, Rastafari. It's coming from Trenchtown. So that's that part of the movie.
And then I walked up the second street to see. Then I tried on through third, second street.
We never say the Caribbean or say Jamaica, but in Trenchtown. Because when we talk about, I just Trenchtown, we talk about Jamaica.
So I'm going to tell you about baby. And born in eight First Street.
That's why so much
That's where he was born.
At this little place here.
Still there.
And that's why it been special for me. See, that's why so much great come out of this little place here. Yeah, man. I'm glad I was born here. Yeah, I'm glad I was born here because something special. Yeah, and this is a special place. And I know I'm going to learn a lot, you know. There's a lot, non-stop, never ending. Every time you come, every time is something ever going on.
Yeah, that's special.
That to me was a crucial point in the interview with Bunny Wailer a couple of years later, when we showed him that part of the movie, and he watched Mikey Smith explaining what Trenchtown meant to him. Mikey Smith was actually standing in this rehearsal room where Bob Marley, Bunny Wailer, and Peter Tosh founded the Wailers. It was really interesting when Bunny watched this part of the movie, he ended the sentence. Like Michael Smith was saying, I'm glad I was born here. And before he could say, I was glad I was born here, Bunny Wailer finished the sentence. And that was very important to me because you could feel that particular strong vibe coming from that place.
But they have turned it into a dream, you know, and somewhere that the people of Trenchtown who originated in Trenchtown and who knew what Trenchtown was like before it has become what it is today. It was a place for a poor man, you know, life to be worthwhile. You know, it was a place that, although it was of the lesser privileged people, it was still that kind of a place that made you feel as if you were in Hollywood, you know, because everything was happening around you. Anything that you could possibly think of was happening in Trenchtown. Everything.
It's like it's a Motown you talk about. Because you have Lassell Perkins down there, so. You have Alton Ellis over there, so. You have Joe Higgs around there, so. You have Delroy Wilson down there, so. You have a Dinah Edwards live right around there, so. You have Lady Chalmers as the Chalmers do up here, so. A whole heap of things, you know what I mean? You have Webtones up there, so. You have Diamonds up there, so again. You know what I mean? Artists like nothing.
Trenchtown.
A Trenchtown, because just Trenchtown, you know, from down the road, they go right up back, you know. That's one big community. Politicians come and divide it up. So up there's a name Jungle and down there's a name Rima.
He's just talking about the art coming out of Trenchtown, the creativity coming out of Trenchtown. In this sentence, he was saying you have artists like nothing. Now, in Jamaican talk, that means there were so many artists you cannot name them. And that was actually the place that Bob Andy was talking about, where they were performing in Studio One. So that's what he meant. He compares it to Motown in Detroit, the foundation for soul music. That was Trenchtown for reggae music and for Rasta on a universal level.
The people had fire to fury.
It has been a war going on for about 25 years now. If you're caught in this section, you die, right? Now, we don't really call it peace now. There's a togetherness now. We don't like to use the word peace. You get me? But when you use that word, after a time, it's vanished. So we want to say togetherness, unity.
Well, down in the ghetto, where the poor have a thing. And the politician is the guns them a bring.
So we tell all the politicians, say, stay where you're there, and make we Rasta stay where we there. Nobody years we there, so. You in a power, you know, come look pan we. You in a power, you know, come look pan we. Low we, make we go and live. Make we go and praise Rastafari and live. Because Bobby done tell we say. Give me the people and make we feed them with music.
Hit me with music, yeah. Hit me with music now. This is Trenchtown Rock. Don't watch that. Trenchtown Rock. Big fish or spread now. Trenchtown Rock.
I give thanks to introduce you to Brother Mikey and to the Trenchtown Reading Center here at 1st Street, Rima, Trenchtown. Many know of Trenchtown even through music, more than through wordical introduction, you know? Because it was off Trenchtown that young prophet Bob Marley sang, that is where we come from, Trenchtown, you know?
Trenchtown Rock. If you are big fish or spread, Trenchtown Rock. You reap what you sow, Trenchtown Rock. And everyone know now, Trenchtown Rock.
This is history in the making, because sociology in the world, especially religious anthropology, is remarking at the booming of this faith of liberty called Rastafari, and know of the way in which it has rebounded throughout the whole universe through the music of reggae. And the introduction to 1st Street, Trenchtown, and to this particular old building is key in that regard, because this building was once the rehearsal room for the Wailers.
And interestingly, it's now a reading center for young kids. But some 30, 40 years ago, that was the rehearsal room of the Wailers. And he just asked one of the kids to handle him over the guitar. And he's explaining that that was the guitar that Bob Marley used to compose No Woman, No Cry.
As you can see, this guitar is very old. All the sound has been in out of it. It was the guitar Bob had while he was in Trenchtown. The last song written and playing this guitar was No Woman No Cry.
He's all our brother, and he has left with us such a great legacy of good music and good culture. And I, you know, for a part to be, have been acquainted with Bob from the age of 9 years, you know, and to have been with him through the Wailers' history. I feel satisfied to know that I've been with one that has left us with such a great legacy.
Get up, stand up, don't give up the fight. Preacher man, don't tell me heaven is under the earth. I know you don't know what life is really worth. It's not all that glitter is gold. After story had never been told, so now you see the light. Hey.
You know, millions of people Bob convert, well, that's a convert, but I'm not really convert. I'm going to enlighten them. I make them realize what they need to know from a long time.
Dancing is that exercise that grooves the heart, the mind, the soul, and the spirit. So reggae music, apart from being that music that sends a message, it deals with history, truths and rights, but it also deals with people dancing and enjoying themselves.
Start the numbers, chanting 6 and 10 like what you've seen. Cause it was written in the Bible of the dreadlock Nazarene. Now don't you put away the old for the new. Cause if you do, that will turn his night on you. It was written in the Bible that Christ was a Nazarene. Hey! Every apostle of Christ was a dreadlock bearded man. Hey! Every apostle of Christ was a dreadlock Ethiopia. Hey! This is a message to our church and denomination. Respect is due to the dreadlock Rastaman.
You can also put the message even on a fast beat, even on an R&B beat, even on a hip-hop beat, even on a soul, even on a jazz. You know what I'm saying? So long as the message is positive and it's reaching the people, then it's all great. It's all good. Yeah.
The songs we sing is to rejuvenate the vibes of loving the ways of the Most High.
You know the DJ them call Mark Myrie. Take them sectorize the youth from the separation.
So we sing and we invoke Emmanuel within our songs, and the way we do things, we sing and let you know it's from John, it is the power of Jah.
Jah! All who don't believe in the island fire and powder, we don't grass this up. Emperor Selassie, the make a great thing of you. Help me and sing my song.
Welcome to life now. You got to seek the feel of righteousness, which also is either become a Christian or Muslim. And I choose this feel of righteousness because I feel this is the right way. And I feel every joy in it, feel happy in it. I feel no shame in it. I feel good being a Rasta. The philosophy of how I learn it and the way of worship and the way of praying and the way of living. I feel it fit.
One thing I can do, one thing I can say. Almighty God, the leader way. He's my guide and protector, night and day. I will never fade away. One thing I can do, one thing I can say. Almighty God, the leader way. He's my guide and protector.
Marcus Garvey come out of Jamaica and tell I say, look to the east of the crowning of a black king. And then now Selassie I come as a king, so we start to regard him as our God and our king.
He's the first Ice Ellis reigning monarch king.
One aspect of Rastafari that a lot of people really don't understand sometimes if they are not coming from the Jamaican experience is the divinity of Haile Selassie. That part of the film tries to explain you what Haile Selassie means to Rastas who experienced the Jamaica runnings of the movement, the Jamaica runnings of Rastafari. And they refer back to the crowning of Haile Selassie, when for the first time, during that time, a black king ruled, and you had people coming from all over Europe, from all over America, paying respect to the king and sort of bowing to the king. And that to Rastas in Jamaica was a very, very strong proof, evidence, that Rasta was indeed the redemption, that Rasta was indeed king and God. And that part of the movie tries to explain that, puts it in the words of the Rastafarians in Jamaica.
His throne was crowned with a great heavenly form. Between the throne of David and the throne of Judah, the lineage of Judah, which is the royal throne of heaven, I realized that there is something beyond the Bible, which is the understanding used in the Bible. And what we have learned today, this is said, Lord Jesus Christ, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie, who come now. And he was the first, and he's the last king.
Jah, Rastafari, Selassie, Kings of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, elect by God to be the earth rightful ruler. So there is no other.
But first and the beginning, Alpha and Omega.
Well, this one is the herbs man anthem.
There are many different kind of herbs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We got it right there. We're smoking marijuana like we just don't care. We got it right there. So blaze up the chalice with the ganja you hear. We got it right there. We're smoking marijuana and we just don't care.
I mean, that's a part you all know. The usage of the holy herb of ganja, marijuana. But I want to say something interestingly. Recently, at a live radio broadcast in Bonn, I was asked by the moderator, so but tell me, reggae is sort of proposing the use of drugs, is advertising the use of drugs. And I said, no, that's wrong. Reggae is the only music I know of that is actually critiquing the use of drugs, that is telling people to be aware of drugs, which is cocaine, heroin, all kinds of chemical drugs. The only thing that is advertised by Rastafari is a natural herb, and that's ganja. But it is not seen as a drug. So some people in the audience, you know, it's Bonn, at the Münsterplatz, Münster Place, they were sort of not really believing what I said, and they were a little bit curious and doubting and so on. So then I asked them, well, it is illegal, but what would you say if beer would become illegal in Germany? Or if red wine would become illegal in Italy? And you name it a drug, it's the law that names it a drug. If it comes from nature, that's a different story to a chemically produced drug. And to Rastafarians, in the definition of Rastafarians, everything produced chemically by mankind can be considered a drug and is strongly opposed in reggae music. I think there are more reggae songs against cocaine and heroin than pro-ganja. Maybe I'm wrong. But at least as many, right? So that part of the movie gives an idea of what ganja means to Rastafari.
We got it right there. So blaze up the chalice with the ganja. Earth by the parcel, earth in the bunch. Even if it's a small morsel, the vibe still a punch. Makes me so humble, no idea stunt. Good enough for the chalice and the blunt. Well, of the inspiration that come out of it, all my brethren requesting some out of it. We got so much, could never run out of it. So pass it around, take a
Many Jamaican people never really used to it because it never legal. But who got hand on it could use it and know the use of it. We the Rastafari brethren use it as a spiritual herb amongst us.
Take a whiff of a spliff. Yeah. granting of licenses all over the world. Why can't you give us a license for herb? Even the learner's permit to start.
And when they done, they send Black Hawk helicopter come here. Kill our ganja, burn our house down with the ganja. Even little baby get burned up in the house.
To lift consciousness to a higher region we all can possess. So give we a license, better give we a license. Give we a license, better give we a license. Give we a license, better give we a license to smoke a split.
We're gonna send some helicopter down in Jamaica and kill their ganja and bring in the cocaine and cover Jamaica with the cocaine. And I'm telling you now, when I go in the grill on the street, it sick my stomach. Half of the young girls and the young guys smoking cocaine. It's not our fault. We didn't grow cocaine. We grow ganja.
All my years living and saw people have been using herbs from the earth. It's always been a healing. But every time you get the drugs, put it into the machine and chemicalize the machine for the human being brains, no good for you. Natural herbs, natural people, natural sound.
You know, as woman, it's very important for me to come to places like these of nature often and be in it and refresh my spirit, because it is of nature and from the earth and from the beauty of the earth. That is woman. Look at this flow of water. It's so life-giving. As woman, I really tune into that. You know, it strengthens me and it puts roots in me, you know? This is where Jah make, this is where Jah is.
I am herbalist. Yeah, a licensed herbalist. So I deal all those sell to the public. So it is good for me, it is good for you. Also for everyone. These are ital roots. Yes. No sugar, no honey, no milk, just ital roots.
Culture Rasta is right, ital.
That's another very important part about the Rasta. The strong livication or dedication towards nature, the strong respect for nature. We are just back a week from Senegal, and it's unbelievable if you travel through a country like Senegal, the amount of waste you see. The whole country is basically spread over, filled with waste. And even Jamaica, those who know Jamaica from the 70s, 80s, could tell you could hardly find any plastic lying around in Jamaica. Nowadays, if you go to Jamaica, to the interior, you see tons and tons of dump of waste. Rasta is a movement that criticizes that particular destructive approach towards nature. And the whole ital thing, which basically stands for natural, is a lesson, a critique of the waste society, Western waste society, the consumer society, and the lifestyle of at least some Rastas in the countryside, in the hills, is totally opposed to that sort of waste lifestyle.
Because they believe the ital is the foundation.
We don't even have land in Jamaica. The Prime Minister, they call us squatters. That means refugees is better than us. Because we don't own land, we see free land. We take a little piece, we live on it, we farm our little food on it. I have a little shop over there. They even come to me and tell me, I have to vacate my little shop.
Listen to what I got to say. Praise the king every day. Come let we go mash them down and lose. All them are rinse and a browns. Them blacks will have to move. Come we go.
So you see what they do to us? They take us from Africa. They bring us to this land. They deprogram we all over. They steal our language from us. They steal our gold from us. And then we became like a mechanical human being.
I suppose you will not understand every word spoken in Jamaican talk. But basically what he complains about here is that people were taken out of Africa, were brought to Jamaica, and 400 or 500 years later, they are still sitting there without property. In Jamaica, you got very, very few people living in uptown Kingston in nice houses. The majority of people lives in shacks, in the towns, in the cities, especially Kingston, of course, but also in the countryside. Hardly anyone has ownership. And I think that's very important to understand why people also want to go back to Africa. The whole concept of repatriation has to do that you don't see a future in the country where you have been enslaved, in the slave country, and in a context that is actually still enslavement to at least many Rastafari.
Listen up, let the children I say to honor your mother and your father. Tell you again, I say to love you one another. Praise the Lassie I crown. In Addis Ababa, 2nd of November 1930. Java. Hey, from the wicked, me that's the
Sit here in Jamaica. I don't believe it's good for me. I want to free to go to Africa.
Repatriation not meaning just a physical movement. You know, repatriation, you have to be mentally repatriated. You know, that means that anywhere in the world you can be mentally repatriated. You understand? You know, 'cause if you don't mentally repatriate, then actually when the physical time comes for really make that shot, then it would even make no sense because you don't ready for it. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Rasta Junior Reed, imagine that.
By the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down.
We sat and we await the king, you know. From Zion.
When we remember Zion. Father, we keep carry us away in captivity.
They take us but just could not break us because Emperor Selassie
how can we
make
sing
us.
King Alpha song in a strange land?
Yeah, well, repatriation is that I and I deal with right now, because I and I really gathering the children. When I tour the four corners of the earth, I go around and gather my people. You understand me? I make them know so right now everyone have to go to them home, because we can't give away a continent for an island.
Them one blow me away like a paper. You know me song when we turn on the fire burning hotter than the equator. I say them say me explicit and raw. Half the people tell me tell them can't. Nobody boy can't kiss me pavage. Worship open, still we know this way. It's not a revolution.
The message I bring across is to open your eyes for oppression, because oppression oppress the righteous people, not the people who's not unrighteous people get no temptation, because they done unrighteous already. Them are done devil seed, but you see through your God instrument, you have to watch out for oppression. And in this time you have to know, I and I come not only to tell you about us Babylon, because you can't tell you have to show the youth them who is Babylon, and so you can be aware of Babylon.
So me say if a man never send fire, who no there? So I'm gonna fire, who? Fire.
Most of the time when people heard of fire, they take it on a destructive level. But the fire is not on a destructive level, because when we say fire, we are not saying to go and light the church or light the building or light the gas station or light somewhere. No, the fire is all about being yourself. Know who you are and know where you're coming from. The fire now is all about stay focused. The fire come through words, the fire come through the Naya Bingi, the fire even come through my energetic performance.
Burn Babylon, burn Scotland, burn Pentagon, burn Clinton, burn O'Reilly, burn Mattyman, burn Lesbian, burn Tanzania, burn Siluta, burn
Burn up them bumbuck, Lord Prophet.
Many people want to know about Nyabinghi. Nyabinghi is an order that His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie uses in 1936 as a war order. So when he used that war order, it was death to black and white oppressor.
That part tells a little bit about Nyabinghi. When you listen to fire reggae, people like Jamaican, Capleton, Sizzler, Pressure perhaps during the festival, or one very, very prominent lady, the Fire Mama, Queen Ifrica. When you are going to see her on the 8th, you will have to understand that that fire is a cleansing force. It's a cleaning force. It is used to reflect downpression. And that reflection really comes from the Nyabinghi. The original Rasta music is not reggae. Original Rasta music is Nyabinghi, the drums you are hearing here. And that's the music where the fire comes from. Some of the Nyabinghi chants would go on for 60, 70 minutes, and you could only hear fire burn, nothing else. Or you would hear fire, 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 fire. Nothing else. 60 minutes, 70 minutes. That's actually where fire reggae comes from. That's where Sizzler, Capleton, and so on get their inspiration.
Repatriation! Yes, for every time I
So when them tell about Nyabinghi, that just certain force of the drums. Because you see the drums can do enough. Drum can kill you, you know. Because we use that and kill people.
That's where the title of this movie comes from. The verbal translation of Nyabinghi in Jamaica is Death to Black and White Downpressors. And that was associated with a war order set up by Haile Selassie in the 1930s to free Africa from colonialism. And interestingly, it was reported in a newspaper in Vienna, in Austria, that Haile Selassie has found the Nyabinghi order. That was translated into the Daily Cleaner in Jamaica, and Rastas reading that in Jamaica got the message Haile Selassie has found a war order called Nyabinghi. It was reported death to white downpressors. But the Rastas, being not partial, not against white or pro-black or anything like that, extended it, broadened the concept to death to black and white downpressors, actually meaning death to all downpressors. And not really a physical death, but a mental, philosophical death.
I try to play this drum, but it's a burst drum, you know. You won't get anything in sense from it, but by demonstrating what it means by keeping a heartbeat, we play this beat here.
From we small, we used to hear them talk about the Rastaman, a black heart man. But we come in ourselves and we start see things and know things. Because no one have to tell you things, you know things. You know yourself, you can go in your own meditation and see things and know the truth from the wrong.
Christ in his kingly character, Christ in his kingly character.
I just want to stop one more time. That was the moment that Bob Andy was telling about just a while ago. In 1966, when Haile Selassie visited Jamaica, shortly after independence, and he was greeted as a king. Officially, it's still the Queen of England being the Queen of this country. Jamaica is still part of the Commonwealth. But I think if you see these images, historic images, you can tell what it meant for Jamaican people coming from an experience of enslavement to greeting the king, Haile Selassie.
Christ in his kingly character, Christ in his kingly character. One love, brother man, say Rasta. Who goes, it must be Jaja. Thank goodness I don't have to wonder. I know he is forever. Christ in his kingly character, Christ in his kingly character. Christ in his kingly character, Christ in his kingly character.
That's a very important moment for the Rasta movement when Haile Selassie, on the right-hand side, was greeted by King Emmanuel Charles Edwards on the left-hand side. He is the founder of the Bobo Shanti. The Bobo Shanti in Bull Bay, the headquarters in Jamaica, who now spread out to Shashamane and to Ghana, to many other places in Africa, in the Caribbean, in the US. And to the Bobo Shanti, that was an important moment because it actually meant that King Emmanuel could be seen as the ambassador of Haile Selassie in Jamaica, and that he had the royal rights to represent Rasta. And of course, as you all know, some of the most prominent artists today, like Sizzla, Capleton, Anthony B, Jamaican, Pressure, many others, now belong to the Bobo Shanti camp. And when they talk about King Emmanuel, you will hear it in almost every song. King Emmanuel, Charles Edwards. That's the person on the left-hand side.
They know His Majesty, King Selassie, I come to Jamaica and come deal with Emmanuel and shake him and shoot like. So you see, if we have praise Selassie as our God, we have to go talk to the man who when Selassie come down here, the man who will come check and will come greet and will raise with, if we really know of him, and which is Emmanuel.
As you can see, our lifestyle is that of Ethiopia. And King Emmanuel has been teaching and living this life for more than 50 years ago in Jamaica, even in the darker days when people knew very little of Ethiopia or even Rastafari.
The principle of King Emmanuel, you know, I and I really have a devotion every morning that the principal do read, and to the congregation, you know, every morning the principal do read, you know, no lying, no picking and stealing, no slandering, reason and the 10 Commandments.
And it's river calm and restful, flowing free. And a friend that strive for parted shall in bless again unite. Shall in bless again unite. What together in a greeting there will be. What together in what together in. What together in our ransom that summer land of love. In that summer land of love. What together in what together in.
His Majesty is declared to us as God and King through many reasons. Through spiritual beings, through even the words of the Bible, and through our prophet, through even Emmanuel. And his works. Emmanuel taught us of His Majesty. You see it? Most of what we know is through Emmanuel, his servant. He was the one who His Majesty has sent as a servant of his from the throne of Ethiopia. Came down here in the Valley of Decision, the Peter Fell, Jehoshaphat, Jamaica, to redeem the sons and daughters that were robbed out of Africa or smuggled out of Africa illegally. So then it take the Godhead himself to redeem these people. So Emmanuel represents the God.
So the music that you hear here and the philosophy that you get at this particular place is actually the source of many of the reggae albums that you buy and many of the reggae tunes that you listen to at the stage shows such as Rototom. And I think I would like to stop at that part of the film and give others a chance to say something as well. I believe with a final sentence, it might also tell you that you have very different ways within Rastafari. The Bobo Shanti are different from the Nyabingi are different from the 12 tribes, are different from individual Rastas who do not belong to any house or any mansion. But at the same time, you feel a certain common vibe. And maybe symbolic is the heartbeat that you can hear. The heartbeat that anyone and each and every one of us has within himself as well, and that actually connects us to reggae, connects us to Rastafari. And perhaps, I mean, there are many, many deeper ways of looking into Rastafari. Some will still come in other presentations. But I think I would like to leave you with that message. There's a common connection in all of us, within I, and that's actually the heartbeat. And if we realize that we are just one, then I think events such as the Reggae University, such as Rototom, make more sense than entertainment. I mean, I love entertainment, but I think they are here to make more sense than entertainment. So I thank you very much for bearing with me. I know it was not quite all too easy with all the sound in the background and I mean the light in the room and so on. But I thank you really to stay out and bear with me, and I hope you got one or the other message for you as well. Thanks.
No. Yeah.
Okay. I want to say thanks a lot, Werner. It was a wonderful presentation, a really insightful documentary. And I want to mention again that you can get books by Werner as well as a documentary over there. So anybody who's interested, and it's worth, I guess, seeing it again because it's something really with deep knowledge. And before we start with Sydney Salmon, I want to ask you, does anybody have any questions? I know it's quite warm in here and it's a lot of information. Okay, nobody? Yeah, you want to?
Don't be shy if there's any questions for Professor Zips. I'll ask a question to begin. I just wondered, can you tell us a little bit about how you became involved in studying Rastafari and the other work that you've done? Can you tell us?
Yeah, but I have to warn you, the answer might be a little bit surprising for you. I'm actually a trained lawyer. And what I was interested in doing law was not so much the written law, like the law of Austria or the law of Italy or anything like that. I was interested in justice. And then when I listened to reggae music, and particularly it was one song, one tune by Pier Tosi, Equal Rights and Justice. back in '78, that just connected with me. And listening to Peter Tosh, Equal Rights and Justice, there won't be no peace if there is no equal rights and justice. To me, that was very meaningful. And in a nutshell, that was actually my entrance, the entrance door into reggae at first, and then secondly into Rasta.
Some other questions for the man?
And one thing, maybe you tell us what it was like for you to film in Jamaica. You get this really deep insights, especially Bobo Hill, and maybe you can tell the people something about this, what it's like, you know, doing the research there, going there as a white person, you know, how you get along and everything.
And also how long it took you to make the film.
Well, the parts that you have not seen were then shot in Ghana. So that took a few years, but that was actually done within a few weeks. But it was based on my knowledge of the Bobos, Naya Bingi, some of the artists over the years. I mean, I could tell you maybe a little story that makes sense to you. When I first came to Bobo Hill in '84, I mean, everyone then thought the Bobos are just nuts. They are crazy people. You could see Bobos selling brooms in the streets. So most Jamaicans would refer to them the broom people, the broom sellers. When I first went to Bobo Hill, I stopped short at the bar at the foot of the hill, and they asked me, so why do you do that? And I said, well, I'm going up there. I'm going up to the Bobos. I want to speak to them, visit the Sabbath. And they said, beware yourself, they're gonna eat you. They said it in Jamaican, they're gonna nyam you. You know, they are going to eat you. Okay, I said, well, let's wait and see. Perhaps I come back. If I'm eaten, then perhaps for a good purpose. I went there. They invited me to come back another week for the Sabbath ceremony. Coming back to the Sabbath ceremony, I was a young student then. Nobody talked to me like professor this and that. I was a young student in worn-out jeans and some pair of sneakers. I got a full house at Bobo Hill, fresh towels. The table was full of food and fresh water. I never had such a good meal in all of Jamaica at the time. I felt like in a 5-star hotel. And I was basically treated like a royal visitor. And I'm always telling that story because it also tells you about the prejudice that even Jamaicans have about Rastafarians and about the Bobos. They were giving you an image of Rastas as the black-haired man. I'm sure you can tell me that I'm right. And that's not what I experienced. If you go to a Naya Bingi, and I happened to be at the first Bingi 5 days after I entered into Jamaica, you get a lot of questions. So, what are you doing here? What do you think about Bitch Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth, so to say? What do you think about apartheid in those days? What do you think about racism in Europe? Well, but you got your time to answer. And if you are able to answer that questions, somebody will give you a huge spliff and something to eat and say, you stay here. You're a brethren, Rasta no partial. And that was the experience in Jamaica. And I was not afraid of that pressure because I knew that Rasta was within I. So even coming from a bourgeois family in Austria, I felt Rasta in me, so whatever they could say, I had Rasta in myself. I was walking with Rasta. You couldn't see no dreadlocks. You don't see a whole of red, gold, and green attire and stuff. But I mean, if you talk to me, you can tell me I kill you if you're not Rasta. I say, go ahead.
Okay, anybody else has a question?
What's the influence of Marcus Garvey and Martin Luther King on the what's finding movements?
Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. I mean, I think there was a short reference in the film, but I didn't want to stop it every 2 seconds and explain it. But certainly Marcus Garvey was very important and still is very important for Rasta. By many Rastafarians today, he would be considered as the prophet, because he spoke of Ethiopia. He spoke of the coming of a king. He spoke of freedom from colonialism. He spoke of an end to slavery through repatriation way back in the 1910s, 1920s. And the early Rastafari, like Leonard Howell, the person that Bob Andy mentioned, he would refer a lot to Marcus Garvey as the prophet. And you have seen among the Bobo, you have the Holy Trinity. Haile Selassie as the king, King Emmanuel as the priest, Marcus Garvey as the prophet. And well, of course, I think you mentioned Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King certainly is referred to by many Rastafarians as a great influence, alongside Malcolm X. Personally, I believe that for many Rastas in Jamaica, Malcolm X perhaps was the greater influence than Martin Luther King. But I think maybe Sydney can say something later on in his talk.
Okay, thanks a lot for everything, Werner. A big applause again for Werner Zips, please.
Pleasure, pleasure.
And I know it's a long session today, but I hope you're still enjoying yourself and taking up the information on Rastafari. And we have Sydney Salmon, whom I introduced earlier, a singer and guitarist, and he is living in Shashamane now. He has this one very nice record which is called Shashamane on My Mind. And I wanted to ask you, Sydney, this record, how did that come about? Have you traveled to Shashamane before, or was it something like a vision you had already before you migrated?
Yeah, all right. I want to greetings, first of all. Greetings in that divine and precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who is this day revealed unto us in that wonderful personality of His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor Haile Selassie I. I greet you also to the Orthodox faith, which is not one of rites nor rites, laws nor vow, but is simply a pure function of one's heart, a mystical incorporation of unity in one, in plain words, to be born again. I greet you also to the 12 tribes of Israel, who were once lost and scattered abroad, and who are now regathering, first started in the island of Jamaica by our beloved prophet Gad, regathering the people to Africa, Ethiopia, specifically Shashamane. Greetings from all mansons of Rastafari out of Shashamane, Nyabingi, Bobo Shanti, World Federation, Ethiopian World Federation, and the 12 tribes of Israel. I'm Brother Simeon from the 12 tribes of Israel. My journey, as to answer your question, my journey began in this following of a simple instruction, which is to read our Bibles a chapter a day, which Haile Selassie, in one of his many speeches about the Bible and religion, spoke about Ethiopia having the oldest version of the Bible. From a child, he was taught to love and appreciate the Bible. And through the passage of time, his love for it grew increasingly. He speaks of the baptism of the first Ethiopian eunuch, who was baptized by Philippus. And from that day on, Ethiopians have followed Christ. He says, when man sees his hopes and aspirations crumbling before him, if he knows not where he's going, nor where to find his help, his only solution is to take up the Holy Bible and read it. In it, he will see the truth for himself, and he will have the guidance for his future action. As for his part, he glories in the Bible. So we follow that instruction under the guidance of Vernon Carrington to read our Bibles a chapter a day, to see this truth which Haile Selassie was speaking of. In reading this Bible a chapter a day, it took us 3.5 years and 1 day to complete it. I myself have gone through 3 times, which means I've been studying for 12 years my Bible. Not only my Bible, but secular knowledge. His Majesty says if you're a Christian, you must seek secular knowledge. Secular knowledge meaning books that substantiates history books. Also the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, which will bring your understanding of the scriptures with more clarity. Well, we started to follow that instruction. We saw the truth for ourselves that for real, Jesus Christ was revealed in this wonderful personality of Haile Selassie, and of the history of his visit in Jamaica, as we saw earlier. We came close to the reality that Africa, or returning to Africa, was possible. When he came to Jamaica, he already saw the people filled with the Spirit and prepared for Africa. And he went back to his country and he told his people that the people in Jamaica and the Caribbean are our family. Okay, so we studied all of that history. We have studied all of that. And now what? The mission, Shashamane, a land given unto the diaspora, the black diaspora, which was neglected after it was given. Why? He gave the land in his appreciation for the help that he received during his country's struggle of the invasion of the fascists, namely Mussolini. And in his appreciation, he gave the land, which was neglected, but the Rastafarians, mainly, firstly, of the Jamaican country, took up the challenge by sending pioneers on the land to live and to hold the land, even during the time when Haile Selassie's government was deposed. So this land, Shashamane, after being neglected for so many years and actually seeing now, watching the time, that Babylon is falling. Babylon meaning confusion. Confusion of religion. Confusion of politics. Ecclesiastical and political Babylon. Gentile world dominion. Well, we are observing through the spiritual eye this prophetic. This is prophecy. The testimony of Jesus Christ is the spirit of prophecy. So we had to make a move. The Rasta man had to make a move. He's been singing about Babylon, in Babylon. And a few has taken up the challenge, mainly because of spiritual development through time. It has been 40 years. Now, if you have read your Bible, you'll know the story of the Israelites and the bringing of the Israelites into the Promised Land. Well, the Rastafarian movement and the Rastas of all mansions are the Israelites. I wrote the song Shashamane in my mind because I could see through, by the grace of the Lord, I could have seen through all what was happening, what Shashamane was going to mean in the future for the Rastafarian movement. So I decided, whilst living in New York for over 15 years, to give my life, the rest of my little life, to the works and the development of that little piece of land in Ethiopia, thus helping Ethiopia, thus helping the whole of Africa. Shashamane on my mind reflects about the goodwill of His Majesty in seeing this far eye, in knowing that the people would need to come home to Africa in peace, security, harmonious flow. So if you have listened to the song Shashamane in my mind, it speaks of this. So that answers the question of why Shashamane. But I've heard some comments made earlier, which I'd like to elaborate on a little. The movement of Rastafari is a spiritual one, which begins with self. God in man. God in us all. Jesus Christ had 12 disciples. He was a part of the church, but he came out of the church. And he said, I will break the church down and I will rebuild it in 3 days. And he came out of the church, went to the mountains and the valleys, and he called the people out. With his 12 brothers and sisters, he administrated the word, the objective, the mission, which is basically in saving souls, bringing us to the spiritual understanding of ourselves, where God dwells. Jacob in the Bible had 12 sons before Christ, of which Judah, the fourth son, was given the blessing of authority and rule. You also know the story of Joseph, who was with his brothers and they envied him and they sold him in Egypt, and he came back and he fed his brothers. There's 12 sons of Jacob, there's 12 disciples of Jesus Christ, and there are 12 months of the year. Every one of us here is born in a month. So one of the blessings of Jacob, through the activation of the works of the apostles, is you, all of us. San Andre, the first disciple of Jesus Christ, Andrew. He's Reuben, the eyes. Spiritual discernment. People who are born in April, they are blessed with spiritual discernment. May, Simeon, Peter, Jesus Christ, Simeon, the son of Jacob, the month of May. Your blessing is listening and faith. Peter, thou art a rock. On you I shall build my church. Faith. All of us, the spirit of all the faculties of the 12, the nose, the mouth, and the heart, who is Judah, the hands, Issachar, Zebulun, the stomach, compassion, Dan, the back, like Babandi, his strength, a lion, Gad, the sexual organ, the power faculty, Asher, the spiritual faculty, the thigh, Naphtali, the knees, the wrestler, Joseph, the calf, the one who multiplies, Benjamin, the one who is intelligent, the foot, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, all written in the Bible in 12s. Founded, started by Jacob, continued through Jesus Christ and his faculties. Anyway, in Rastafari, we are one body of people, but universally, we're all connected to Jesus Christ, through Jesus Christ. Now, a lot of Rastas don't like when you speak about Jesus Christ, because they see it like the contrary. But I'm here to tell you, we say Jesus Christ revealed in this wonderful personality of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, of which Haile Selassie was from the tribe of Judah, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. He was born in July. And the blessing of Judah is the authority to rule. Jesus Christ himself is from the tribe of Judah, who has not yet come to sit upon the throne of his father David, of which Haile Selassie is of that family of David. And he sits upon the throne of David. And when Jesus Christ returns, he will sit upon that same throne of David. So our mission and our work as Rastafari is simple. It's in the Bible. And spirit, the Bible is a book of spirit. The words are spiritual. When you read them, they take unto themselves flesh. Anyway, that's enough about that. I'll speak about Shashamane in Africa and the work that we're doing right now. The work that we're doing right now is to build Shashamane. The Rastafarian mansions in Shashamane have come together under one banner. The Nyabingi, the Bobo Shanti, the 12 tribes of Israel, all are under one banner in Shashamane. And they're called the Jamaican Rastafarian Development Community. Mission, development of Shashamane, the building of schools, the buildings of hospitals, projects that will employ people and give people opportunity, because that's what Africa lacks. Africa doesn't want to beg for her survival. She wants to work for it. And we are people on the ground in Africa that is working for this development. Well, Shashamane falls in the Oromia region, which is a local tribe, one of the 80 tribes in Ethiopia. And Shashamane falls in there, the gift land. So we have to work with the Oromia people for the development of our region and the whole Oromia region as a whole. It's not easy, because you're speaking about language and culture. But through the goodwill that was taught to us by His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, or that same spirit of Christ, goodwill and fellowship towards all men, we're able to go overcome our difficulties and our obstacles and have achieved certain progress on the ground. I'll speak of my mother, who was not a Rasta and told me to leave the house when I decided that I'm going to live the life. And I accomplished my degree at the university as a Rasta. Still smoking, but having respect and manners for all. My mother was impressed with that, so she came. And now she's trying to build a hospital in Shashamane. Let's give a big hand to my mother. Thank you. Because she has faith. The movement of Rastafari is now coming to the point of the arrow, the pinnacle. All Rastaman will tell you he desires to go to Africa. He desires to go to Ethiopia. But if he goes there and there's nothing on the ground for him, how will he survive? He will survive. But if we organize, which is what I have learned from Rototom, by their operations, that they're very organized, very ready to work, and very professional. We, the Rastafarian community of Shashamane, will take this and use it in our progress, for our progress in Shashamane. I commend you. Rastafari movement consists of everyone. Everyone has a claim to it. Africa has a claim to it. Europe has a claim to it. Yes, Solomon had sons all over the world. Solomon had children, and the children of Solomon are scattered all over throughout the generations. Somewhere along your family tree, along the line, there is a connection. If you would take the time out to trace it, read the Bible, and read history books, and you will understand. Well, greetings to all from Shashamane and Adama, Nazareth, which is the capital of Oromia. Oromia, we're working with another organization, which is the same organization through the government, to bring people, to show them Oromia, the area where Shashamane lies, and Adama, Nazareth. I'm currently working with a wonderful set of people from all over, mainly here in Italy and Ethiopia and Africa on a whole, and America. I must commend them, Lake Tana Tours, Elizabeth, Leila Worku, Nico, and a whole lot of Francesca, a whole lot of people we don't know who will believe this or believe us about the aspirations of Rastafari in this time. The Rastaman came early and said, when are the people going to go home? When are we going to come together? When are we going to see? Well, we will see when we all see. We're coming to that point now in history and in time, where in which what we do now will shape what will happen in the future. So I asked the brethren and sister to, Leila will say a few things. Read and see what you can make of it. Ethiopia is calling, Babylon is falling, Shashamane on my mind. Rastafari.
Tanas the link from Ethiopia. Thank you so much for giving us this time, and thank you for giving us your ears. Mainly what I would like to show you first is the works that we've been doing with Sydney Salmon and the Imperial Majestic Band, trying to bring the people together. And I don't know if you're aware, but we celebrated our Millennium event. During that time, a whole bunch of Rastas from everywhere came to help us promote positive vibes in Ethiopia. And this was a really great time, and we worked together with the youths, making the youth start getting into the development of Africa from a young age. And they contribute with ways that they can, be it dance, be it to clean up the town. And together, we are trying to build something. So we had many people on the show who gave their time, effort. Even Bob Andy has come before, given his time and effort for Shashamane, for Adama, Ethiopia. Volume there. We had acrobats, we had a variety of people coming in to show talent.
True warrior. I'm from Shashamane. I was born in Shashamane. I would like to extend my love and do a lot of works and shows and developments for Shashamane, Adama, the whole of Africa. And I want to extend my love to all my brethren and my friends in Shashamane, because we're working together as a bond, you know, to develop Africa and stuff. Yeah, that's.
Come on, my brother, Ethiopian brother, together we'll be strong, yes. We've got to try to learn to love one another. My African brother, my Jamaican brother, for this new millennium. Where's True Warrior? Did I see True Warrior? I got somebody who was born in Shashamane. I have a young man who was born in Shashamane. Is he here? This is a true warrior. Tell them about Shashamane, lad.
Selassie. Yo, Shashamane, you know? Have you heard of Shashamane? Just come my Shasha and face reality. Yo, repatriate your man to Shashamane land. This a true warrior and fitness and a man. Have you heard of Shasha? Heard of Shasha? Heard about Shasha? Heard my name? Heard about Shasha? Heard about Shasha? Heard about Shasha? Selassie.
Give it up for True Warrior and pass it through. I'm going to double up for that. Stay up on the stage, John. Come on, hey.
So that was just one scene, just showing you the spirit of people coming together and trying to show Ethiopia some positive vibes. So I wanted to share with you my project, which we're working together again with the youths. It's called the Bright Millennium. And again, it's about the millennium, but the commencement of something good, a commencement of getting together and working together throughout the new millennium for Ethiopia. So down on the grounds, we have prepared the people. They have come together to understand the works of Rasta and what good vibes it could bring. And our aim is, as the African Union, the seat is in Ethiopia, if we somehow can use entertainment, music, and get the youths involved at a young age, maybe together we could be able to bring another group of people together, helping each other in Ethiopia. So our aim is always to develop Africa. So is the AU, so are different people. We just need to come together to do it. So a quick look at our strategy. We believe that there could be a ripple effect if everyone everywhere came together. Maybe here in Sunsplash, again, with the JRDC and the Pioneers, Adama youth group, which we're working with. One of them is located in Adama, one of them in Shashamane, but they're both in the same region. So if somehow we keep doing our good vibes and good development projects there, we can meet in the center and make a lot of people throughout Ethiopia or the Oromia region come together and get some positive results. For example, unity amongst the able and less fortunate community members who have been given a chance to contribute their country's development. We're also trying to get a result of a clean, green, healthy society for our future generations. Again, we intend to unite and get the result of uniting government bodies with one aim. International bodies learn to love one another for their differences and via acceptance, progress in unison for one aim, African development. So, if you see, there's a middle bit which collides, the two circles. That middle bit is the midst of all this. A new generation will be born and with the right attitude and to continue the work of their forefathers. We have seen representatives of all generations, as you pointed out. We've seen people in Jamaica saying the same thing. We're saying in Ethiopia the same thing. So we can come together and do this. So what are our objectives together? Of course, is to unite the youths of Adama and Shashamane and under the umbrella of positive vibes and empower them by beginning a new trend to facing problems with the right attitude. By stopping this attitude of giving up, instead try again, by trying to understand each other, give each other a chance, and so forth. So our main focus is to work with the government there, giving them some aid as well to try and help the youths have proper facilities in their toilets or to get proper training on toilets and so forth by providing them with proper toilets in the actual schools where the teachers can actually show them how to be hygienically motivated. The next project will be going towards the Pioneer Adamas, which is focusing on trying to use what we can as people there to contribute to our generations. So the first one is the Oromia Blood Drive and Donation Campaign. Basically, we may not have a lot of money, but surely we have blood. And in our hospitals, there's no blood, so people are paying a lot of money for, you know, something which we have inside us. No, it doesn't count. So we're trying to get them aware of this movement. Instead of letting our brothers die in hospitals, let us continuously give our blood into the blood banks and they will themselves sustain it. Blood will become cheaper for those people who need it. Next one is creating an info center for youths and tourists. I think this is the most important thing because there is a big gap between everyone's cultures. Instead of coming together and appreciating cultures, we may have a different outlook on each other's cultures. So we intend to break that by creating pamphlets, creating awareness, creating a connection to tourists who want to come in and see Ethiopia, see Shashamane through our eyes, through Adama as well. So it's also going to be simultaneously promoting youth events and so forth. So the youth will continuously be joining with the outside world and also learning from them. How? For example, simply by language, simply by learning how to say hi, or simply by showing them the country that they love, showing them the sights. So we create tour operators or tour guides out of them too. The third project is keeping Ethiopia beautiful. You know that takes work. There's a lot of work to be done. So those people, instead of sitting on the streets, let us get together and start cleaning up our towns around us, teaching them about development via beauty. So the Keep Ethiopia project, is mainly to try and put out trash cans everywhere on the streets. Maybe that's a common thing for you to see here, but in Ethiopia, we are still just starting development. So we intend to put 200 trash cans out in Adama, a bigger town, the capital, 80 more in Shashamane, where we employ the youths and sustain them with jobs for at least 3 years on a renewable contract. We intend to pay them not minimum wage, but more so that they will be able to afford to also go to school and support their family, kids, so forth. So what we're also doing here and our project is to try and get tourists to leave a mark in our country, in Shashamane, in Adama. So we're trying to get these trash cans out. We have a great promotional scheme of which we intend to, if you wish a saying, a famous thing that you want to say about Ethiopia, you can feel free to give it to us, register it in, and we will promote you in Ethiopia. We'll leave your mark in Ethiopia for you for 3 years. These positive messages are what our people need to hear. They need to feel the love from everyone. So as simple as that, us here together can make a difference. So this is our projects, and we'll be around in Rototom all this time. Thank you again for having us. We'll enjoy it. And if you have any questions, we'll gladly explain about our country. We'll gladly let you know more anytime. We're around. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a question I'd like to start off with for both of you, Sydney and Leila. Could you tell us a little bit about the relationship between the Rastafari community in Shashamane and the broader non-Rasta community that's there in Ethiopia?
The Ethiopian people and the non-Rasta, and the non-Rasta people, or not? Well, Ethiopians in general are very hospitable. They're well known for their hospitality. They're very simple people. They're very simple people. They're not, whether rich or poor, they live together. In a community in Ethiopia, you will see rich and poor living together, no problem. And they eat at each other's house sometimes, you know. So by nature, they are very welcoming. To the Rastafarians, they have great respect, because the Rastafarians represent what was a better time in Ethiopia. So they see us as a hope that we will bring back Ethiopia to this Christian country as it was back in those days.
Okay. I have another question. How do the Ethiopian people how do they feel about the Rastas worshipping Haile Selassie as a divine, as a god? For them, it must be a more historical person, or you know, a person who really lived there and did things.
Good question. I don't know if Leila will say something, but what I will say for myself is that the faith of Rastafari, which is why I had to get into certain things earlier, that the head of our faith, the helm of the movement is Haile Selassie. And who was Haile Selassie? What was his faith? What was his... Well, he was an Orthodox Christian, or he's an Orthodox Christian. And an Orthodox Christian sums up the movement. What does it mean to be Orthodox? Orthodox, the faith, is not one of rituals, laws, nor vows, as the church once had on the people by the commandments and by all of these things. It's not about that. It's simply a pure function of your heart. It's a mystical thing with the heart, you know. We make many mistakes in our lives. We do things we say we would never do. And if God was a strict man to the point where you go against his word, then we all would just be smitten down and we would die just by doing the wrong thing. But he allows us grace to grow, to develop, to make mistakes, to learn, to come to the understanding. That's the key thing, for us to learn and come to the key understanding. So Haile Selassie represents that entry into the sphere of higher consciousness, higher godliness, which is in the ultimate, the man who gave his life on the cross. Yeah.
Thanks. Basically, you have to understand the history of Ethiopia to be able to realize why there may be a little, you know, small communication gap. But the thing is, our people from before my time and my father's, our history books have been burnt. You know, we have no knowledge of what the good things have been going on. I learned about Rasta because I was outside and I heard them speak about Ethiopia. So when I came back and I didn't see so many of them there, you know, I was just like, oh, you know, every time I see them, I'm happy because they are the ones who are truly promoting Ethiopia. And our people need to know this, you know, and they need to know it. They need to understand their appreciation of Haile Selassie. And they didn't have that lesson. They don't have those lessons in school. So they need to get this message across through music. I mean, the government is supporting us here with television and radio and different outlets for us to start spreading these positive vibes, you know, and making people understand, not forget their own culture, forget their own men, but just appreciate the fact of what is going on. You see them, the people are there. Every time the Rastas have a show, the people are there. Which people are they? Maybe they're not the ones all the way up at the top, but the people are there, you know? That's what counts. Thank you.
Yeah, I also just wondered, could you tell us how big is the community there in Shashamane? How many people live there?
Okay, a quick thing on Shashamane. 250 kilometers south of Addis Ababa in the Rift Valley. 250,000 people live in that region, not just Rastafarians. The Rastafarian has its own community, which is a gift land. And it was more, but because of the lack of development on the land, the government has held back some, and they say, okay, do what you can do with this. Once you have brought it to the level, we will give you more land, which will be ready to house the other Rastafarians who are coming to Shashamane. So the Rastafarian community, I care not to number, but it's no more than 500. But as you have heard from all Rastafarians through media and through live, that they all see Ethiopia as the place where they're repatriating, their Mecca, where they're going. So we are working for this on the ground, that we can set up infrastructures, hospitals, different things that people will be safe and secure when they come to Ethiopia.
And are most of the people, do they come from Jamaica or from the whole of the Black Africa diaspora?
Yes, good question. No, it's not just Jamaicans. They're from Trinidad, they're from Barbados, they're from the United States, they're from all over. The thing is, we are called a Jamaican Rastafarian as out. The Jamaican is there as a respect to Jamaica in the movement and what Jamaica represents in the movement of Rastafari. In Ethiopia, they see Rastafarians as Jamaicans. They don't differentiate. But they're now learning and now being educated that Rastafarians are universal from other parts of the Caribbean and the diaspora, and as even Europe. We have European Rastas living in Shashamane. And that was a bit surprising for a lot of the Ethiopians when they were enlightened about the universality of Haile Selassie. You see, there's so much aspects to Rasta. It's repatriation, reparation, the movement, the history. There's the present, what's next, and there's the future of Rastafari, where in which we only can take it one step at a time until we get into the heights. But we all know that Ethiopia is that place, the rallying point where all will come together. Rastas and no-Rastas, people will come together. Unto the gathering of Judah shall the people be. So Ethiopia today represents that in spirit and is now even happening. When I leave here today, I'm heading back to Ethiopia to celebrate in Shashamane the birthday of Haile Selassie, which is celebrated every year in Shashamane and Ethiopia, July 23rd. A very important day for Rastas all over. But we're celebrating it in Shashamane. And soon, the people will be coming and we'll be celebrating it in Shashamane. So reggae is reuniting the people and will be moving the people to where they were intended to be moved.
One more question, Sydney. How do the people live by? What do they make to go a living off? You know, is it self-sufficiency like Marcus Garvey preached, or maybe you can tell us something about it?
Very interesting, because because it's like what we're doing is unprecedented. It comes the survival of the Rastafarian movement. His Majesty spoke this at the UN, but it applies to us. He says, the problems which confronts us today are equally unprecedented. They have no counterparts in human experience. Men will search the pages of history for solutions and precedents, but there are none. This then becomes the ultimate challenge. Where are we to look for our survival, for the answers to the question that's never been posed? He says we must first look unto the Almighty God, who has raised man above the animals and has endowed him with intelligence and reasoning. We must put our faith in him that he will not permit us nor allow us to destroy humanity, whom he created in his own image. We must look into the depth of our souls, the depth of our being, becoming something we have never been, for which our education, environment, and experience have ill prepared us. Knowing that our ultimate allegiance is not to nations, but is to our fellow human, our fellow being. So our survival in Shashamane is simple. Rastafarians are very thrifty, very creative people. So we have our own creative ideas, which we do. Well, we have arts and crafts there. We have some very creative brothers and sisters there who are engraphing the African art into the Rastafarian concept. And it's wonderful. I must speak of one artist in particular. His name is Teddy Dan, who is also a wonderful singer and artist, but a very wonderful sculptor. And he has some very unique pieces. And this is what Shashamane does for us. We make our survival, we are creative with our survival. Some of us who are skilled and educated, we work within the schools in Addis Ababa. We teach. I myself, I do teach in Shashamane, because we have our own school in Shashamane, the Jamaican Rastafarian Development School, which has a 96% success rate at the national exam. And the students, they come back and they teach. So we're doing well. So we're creating our own survival in Ethiopia. And it's going well. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Do you have another question, David? Yeah. So who has a question?
What effect on farming, on tourism, on the area in Ethiopia? Farming. Yeah,
good question. Farming is very important. People, you have to attend to reading of the Bible, because in the Bible it prophesies again that there cometh a time where there shall be a great famine. A famine for the word of God, an actual famine. So it is for all nations to be storing, to be investing in agriculture. Very good point. Well, we in Shashamane, we have a department that deals with agriculture. Now, the government in Ethiopia is working by investment. To do this, you have to be an investor. So a lot of Rastafarians are becoming investors in Ethiopia, in which they will be given a piece of land for a certain certain length of time, and they will do agriculture of whatever. It's technical because Ethiopia is a highland, and there are certain things which will do well and certain things that won't do well. The Ethiopians, they have been Ethiopians for many years, so they know what is best. So with what we have learned here in the West, we will take there and we will work with the Ethiopian, and we will agriculture. Ethiopia will feed the world. Africa will feed the world. And the whole world knows this, because Africa has built the world by her natural resources, you know. So it's now time for us to rebuild Africa for all. And food is one of the greatest. Food, clothes, and shelter. These are the three basic needs that man works to have, you know. So in Ethiopia today, agriculture is a wonderful thing. So I commend you for that question, because a lot of people, they don't like the earth. Yes. Hmm?
Sorry, just to add on to your point, there are still projects that are going to be happening. For example, in Jamaica, fruit trees are everywhere. So to learn from that, we intend to combine that in our project and start planting. I mean, the government did a huge Millennium planting, tree planting thing. And what we plan to do, using Jamaica's example, is try and plant fruit trees in Shashamane, on the streets of Shashamane, so that the people can go by and have a little piece of Jamaica right there, you know, shape it in that way.
When we were growing up in Jamaica, our parents wouldn't be finished cooking until 5 o'clock. And we had to wait for the dinner. But give thanks that our grandfathers before thought about this, and they planted a lot of fruit trees, so we had mangoes. Now, those who have been to Jamaica know about our mangoes in Jamaica. We have some of the best mangoes in Jamaica. Julie, East Indian, Blackie, Hairy, all varieties and species of mangoes that we used to eat these things before our dinner. Sometimes after our dinner time, we couldn't eat because we were so filled. Well, we have to do this for the Ethiopian youth. The little guy, the little kid, barefoot boy on the side street, one day he's going to be the president or the prime minister of Ethiopia. Or he's going to be somebody great in Africa. So we have to try to set the infrastructures, the basic things there for the future, because the Rastafarian movement is gathering the people to focus and to participate and share in the blessing of Africa, what Africa has to give for the whole world, you know. It's the thing that the Rastas have fought was the colonialism aspect, wherein which the development was not left to the African for him to feel as if he was playing the part of developing, shaping his future, his development. So he's proud, you know. So what we can do is to help him to develop, which is education, skills. The Shashamane Rastafarian School are looking for teachers who can come and give us 6 months of your service, improve our standard, your technique of teaching to these young unfortunate. As His Majesty said, it is the duty of the educated few to see to the legitimate aspirations of the uneducated many. So our duty is towards humanity. Rastafarian movement duty is towards humanity. It's not about herb. It's not about hair. It's not about clothes. Yes, culture plays a part. And we wear it because we're proud. But the essence, the meat of the matter is not that. The meat of the matter is a man. There was a Rasta man 2,000 years ago who walked the earth. He didn't comb his hair. And he traveled in a sandal and he preached outside of the church. And they nailed him to a cross. But his life was for that purpose, so that we could be a part of the enlightenment of this level of spirituality, which what he had. Rastafari has come in this time, has called us to this calling of spiritual development of self, mind awareness, unto repatriation, rebuilding of Africa, Africa for the Africans, Africa for Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The black man, the white man, and the brown man. Every man have a vested interest. And rightly so, because the Garden of Eden is in Africa, if you read Rastafari.
Give thanks, Sydney. It was a wonderful session today, and I want to give thanks to everybody, to Sydney, to Werner, to Leila, to Bob Andy, who has left us. And, you know, I hope we will see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow we will have a session on reggae in Italy with a lot of Italian artists. And the day after, we have a session on new trends in the dancehall, as well as on female reggae. So there are still a lot of sessions going on. And I wish you a wonderful night. And I want to conclude this session with Jah Rastafari.
I'd just like to mention, sorry, a little commercialism. My CD is on sale here. It's called Ethiopia is Calling. Proceeds from this CD, some of the proceeds will go to the development of Shashamane. I'm sure the music is wonderful, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the CD. This is the bass player from the Universal Vibes Band.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was born in Jamaica and I live in the United States. But I came to Italy 2 months ago to do a recording, an album in Rome. We completed the album, and for some reason, some strange way, I ended up in Friuli. Now, Sydney, I know him from many years in America, and I had no idea what would unfold here. I needed some musicians, and he needed some musicians to play for him, to put a band together. I was the only one. I had no one. I met some Italian guys, okay? When I first heard them, I said, oh, no. Something have to be done here. Then I started work with them, and I quickly realized how great musicians they are and how quickly they learn. And in less than 2 weeks, the band was sounding like they were born in Jamaica, okay? It's incredible, because this I will tell everyone. I will tell this about how great the musicians are here and how well they interpret the reggae music and how good I feel to know that I could come here, find some guys who could actually play, learn the music in such a short time and do such a wonderful job. It's a great, 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 great pleasure. All right, rest of it.